Welcome everyone to another segment of DIY Professionals, and today we have with us Nickesha Powe. She is a corporate manager at a prominent financial institution, and today she's here to share some tidbits about life. What is it like working in a financial institution? What are some skills that she has garnered? And really just her as a person, to shed some light to help us as we strive to be better persons and a better version of ourselves. So Nickesha, welcome so much. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, so if you were to describe yourself in one word, how would you describe yourself?
Wow. A learner.
A learner.
A learner.
Interesting word to use. Why you chose a learner?
Because actually I believe on a day-to-day basis, no matter where the learning comes from, that's how we grow. And I believe that there's everything that happens to us, or everything that comes our way, that there's always opportunity to learn. We never ever know it all. This I always share even with persons at the office to say, hey, it can be something as much or someone as young as our children. A 2-year-old, just their perspective can teach you something, and that can help you to grow. And on a day-to-day basis, I just believe that as an individual, you should take the time out to grow. If you're not growing, then it means that we're going to be stagnant. And if we're stagnant, we can't go into the purpose and the calling that God has for us.
Awesome. We don't even reach anywhere and already you're just giving so much. I love it.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So tell me about your role as a corporate manager, right? I know you said before you're a learner. Is learning a big and more important part of your job? And tell me, what was the process like to get to that position? Because you're a young woman, right? And as manager, right? A lot of people, probably think that that position is a little bit far off, out of their reach. But tell me, what was your journey like becoming a corporate manager, and what have you learned from being in that position?
All right, so my journey. Let me start with my journey. I studied finance at UTech. At first I started off to say that I wanted to do law, but boy, when I look at the number of years and I say, boy, this is gonna take too long for me to start earn my own money. I really just followed a friend to register for UTech, and at that point in time it was commerce, so everything was business administration, and then you get to specialize. And I was clear I wasn't going to do accounting, and marketing was just a lot of reading. So by default, I ended up in finance, right? So that's how finance was, well, finance chose me, I like to say. After leaving UTech, I wanted to get the exposure in terms of a summer job. So I started at this same company that I'm still at. I first started off as a summer worker. And at that point in time, the company was still growing. So it was still known for, being the trendsetter, taking on young people, not being traditional. So it was for me, it was a right fit at the time in terms of the summer. When I went on as a summer worker, it was a particular project that we needed to have completed by the end of say for example, we started in June, we needed to finish that project by August. And
Okay.
the other team member that we were working with, we had a competition going on. And at that point in time, the competition was who is it that's going to finish the project at an earlier stage. So I don't lose. I don't like losing. So in the end, I ended up doing the project in like less than a month. The manager at that time, or the supervisor at that time, she was super, super duper impressive because of the level, the standard in terms of the work that was completed. So one of the first lessons right there was that you should always have your standard and your values in terms of your work ethics. So even as a young person, I don't necessarily had to have someone looking over my shoulder to know that I needed to complete this and complete it to the best of my ability. At all time, I should be giving my best, right? The best mean also that I'm going to be staying back to have this completed, then I will do so. If it means that I'm going in early. And then I grew up with a father that always used to tell me that punctuality and being on time is the key. So I always had an early start. I was also curious, so I didn't want to just learn that aspect of the project. I wanted to learn more about the financial industry. So at that point in time, I used to go on the trading floor. I used to sit with the receptionist. I used to sit with the at that point in time, the client officers who would do the transactions or complete transaction with the client. So while I'm sitting with them, I'm learning along the way. So I'm learning different aspects of different roles in the company as a summer worker. If they are so at that point in time as a summer worker, it wasn't required for me to be even going on Bliss. And during that time, they would be going on the plazas. I am right there with them. I'm up there with them. I'm learning the products. So as soon as a crowd, and this was a company that if it doesn't matter where you worked, the clients are always first. And because the clients are always first, once there was a crowd or there was a line at the receptionist area, you would see persons just coming from different directions just to try to assist to ensure that the clients are served. Something that I admired about the company up to this day is that company never ever, strive to say they're perfect, but we grow and we actually learn from it. So when the clients would come in, I would jump in, try to assist the clients as best as possible. Then as I learned that aspect of it.
Sorry to cut you, but nobody was thinking, I wanted a summer worker here. Why should I be so extra? Because usually that's kind of the thought that a lot of people, comes to their mind. Like, why is this person being so, nobody was thinking that any at all?
Well, no, because I think what happened is that's the culture of the company. Okay. Persons are always, so you have persons who are not necessarily just interested in just the job that they're doing. We're a family. So I always laugh and say we're a little cult. Okay. We have our own language. I tell the person that we need that dictionary, with our own language, with our way of being. It really embraces this whole thing of family, that you're not going through it by yourself. So even as a summer worker, so even the supervisor will move away from her area just to ensure that she comes out to assist, not because the client is complaining or quarreling, but just because there's a crowd and there needs to be assistance. If it means that the supervisor at that point in time is going to move away and ensure that she's relieving the receptionist because the receptionist needs to go and have lunch. And it was just a vibes that at that point in time, it was just a good vibes that everyone, it was just there to help and cover for each other. So where you're weak, I am strong, and we're jumping in and we're supporting each other. So if it means that we're staying back together as a team as well to ensure that your project got done. So it was a true family. That's how I started off at the company. At that point in time, the call center was actually just starting up. And there were just 2 persons in the call center, and the second person had actually just started when I started as a summer worker. So you know that person fresh and green and new.
Right.
Other person was actually there, and by law you need to go on vacation in a financial institution for a period of time. You have to be away from your desk. So what had happened at that time is that person needed to go on vacation, and they had no one to relieve the person. I was actually due to go to college overseas.
Okay.
And because I was actually planning to further my studies, and I had reached out to the administrator, and I looked at what my options were. And because I was really offering for this person to go on vacation, and while they go on vacation, I'll say, okay, I'll do an additional month after my summer job,
Right.
and support them. And then what will happen is I will start school the January versus the September. Well, never start
That
school.
didn't happen.
That did not happen. So the supervisor that I had as a summer worker, she also was looking for something for me to do, because I was just going through the different projects, and I was just doing this stuff so fast, right? And I was a quick learner. So I took on the challenge of relieving the person while they go on their vacation. Don't know anything. Still just learn the little that I know from before. And that's how I was actually introduced.
Before you were working for about what, 3 months or 2 months?
That was about 2 months. I was actually 2 months in. So I was coming to basically to the end of my summer, end of the contract for the summer workers. So while everyone was leaving, I was there learning now how to, and at that point in time, we didn't even have a system in place. We had telephones, like we had like 10 literal physical phones in front of us. So because we're just starting off, everything needed development. And the supervisor at that point in time, gosh, God bless, may her soul rest in peace. Bless her soul. She was a Christian. And I remember being there working, and she said to me, do you know this is where you're going to stay? And I laughed and I said, nope. I wasn't, at that point in time, I knew God. My grandfather was a deacon, so yes, I had a relationship with God, but I was not committed.
Right.
And so I look at her and I laughed, and I remember saying, no, I'm not staying here. I'm going to foreign. Yeah, I had a foreign mindset, and I'm ready to take off and everything like that. And I started to work there. Ideas started to flow in terms of how to develop the call center, putting certain structures in place again. And again, I am thankful for the kind of environment where they foster that kind of growth and fosters idea. So at that point in time, once you have an idea and you got the go ahead, you could run with it. And persons will automatically come on with you, and we just work together as a team. So it started off that way. I basically became the 3rd member of the team. And I was basically working on contract, just doing it, just trying to develop, because I get bored easily and I love challenges, I realized. And so what happened is that at that point in time, my mind was just going, and I was just helping in the department. And probably about 3 months later, I came in one morning and I just found a letter on my desk. And it was just a letter saying that I will now be a permanent team member. Right. After being in that role, again, as I continue to learn and grow, started to create different roles in the department, started to create it in terms of the specialization, started to look at the different phone system that we could help support with. So I was always intrigued by that. And as I said, I just love learning. So I used to fast. I call it fast. So even if it's something that's not, that it will impact my team. So as something as simple as IT, I would not just leave it as just saying, oh, the IT team will take care of it. I will used to sit with the IT team to say why this impacted. I mean, I can't do that now, but back then, you know, I spend time with them and we go through. So when something happened, I used to literally troubleshoot on the team. I then moved from being I would say level 1 call center officer to be in a level 2. I created a level 2 officer where that basically it got to a point where instead of being on the phone, I would be in the background like coaching, and at that point in time I didn't realize I was coaching, but I was supporting persons from the back end, because what used to happen is that persons who would come, new persons who will come in, I will sit with them, I will train them. We will train in particular areas, and also taking on, so as we grew as a call center to support the wider company or to support the so at that point in time, the entities, so it was broken down in different entities. And as the business continued, as the business grew, then of course we started to support the country, like in Jamaica. So it started off with that, and then the department started to grow. And as the department grew, I became like an authorizer, started to get more responsibility. Eventually, I became a supervisor until I became a manager, and then I became a corporate manager. First to support Jamaica, and then we further started to support the group. So it include other countries.
Okay, so very interesting in terms of a journey, and what I'm getting from you is what just jumps out into my mind is don't despise small beginnings, because a lot of times we think, you know, oh, I'm starting off here as a summer worker, I don't see much area for growth, I'm just, you know, in this position for 2 months, this is where it's gonna end. And we don't lay hold of that opportunity and milk it, as it were. Sometimes we just think, okay, this is my tenure, this is my spot, I don't need to be so invested in the process, because it's not really that important. It's just it's gonna end after a while. But what I got from you was that you lay hold on this opportunity and you made sure that you learned every single thing that you could learn in order to position yourself, not even knowing, because I would think you just had an inquisitive mind, but not even knowing that, because as I said, quote unquote, fast, you were actually positioning yourself for something greater. And that is really commendable, because a lot of times you hear a person say, oh, I work at a call center, or I work here, and they don't even see the bigger picture. Sometimes they're so focused on where they are now that they don't even realize, you know, what is the potential, what is the area, what's the opportunity that they can go into. So that's really awesome.
Right. So, and as you shared, is basically don't work for where you are, work for where you want to go to. So while you're in the present right now, where it is that you want to go, and that's what exactly you need to work on, right? As I said, you have to have your own work ethics. If you don't have your standard and your work ethics, then that is something that's supposed to come naturally. So no matter what position you're in, you're still going to hold yourself to that standard, right? and just keep your eyes on the ball. As I said, it chose me, not necessarily, me choosing that this path. And
Right.
here is something that while you were speaking that I remembered as well, is that even once you get promotion or you're promoted within an organization, you tend to serve a probationary period. Because I was already acting or working in that capacity or that level, I have not served a probationary period for any of the role. They're always waived.
Wow, interesting, interesting. And that just speaks to, and it just speaks to the value that you have placed on yourself in order to position yourself. Because I think a lot of times we don't place enough value on ourselves and importance on ourselves to understand that we have a role to play,
Right.
no matter how small the role is, but to understand that we are a part of the bigger process. And because you put the value on yourself, then others see that value. And sometimes we don't even realize that sometimes our thought pattern is what causes us to not be able to position ourselves and really elevate and go into line of promotion. Because people might be watching this and say, "I lucky she lucky, lucky she lucky. This not gonna happen to me." And it's not luck. It's not luck.
No.
Right? So it's really awesome. What I want to find out from you though is, has there, because you were newly appointed to the position you're in now since a year ago, right?
Here.
Has there been any struggles? Because I know with the pandemic and everything happening now, right, and everybody being in a different space and having to find new strategies, has there been any difficulty for you, and how have you overcome those obstacles?
So you're faced with trials. Anyone who manages people, they will tell you that there will be trials.
Right.
So just to name a few challenges is in terms of, as you shared, the promotion or the role took place while in a pandemic. And this is now managing a team or a setup that you're not physically at. Because there was a shutdown in that country as well as in Jamaica. So how is it that you now build that trust between you and the team that you have never met physically?
Right.
How is it that they trust your vision and trust how it is that you're guiding them? Right? So that within itself, it's a challenge. So even though a lot of persons will say, hey, but we're moving to a virtual world, all of that, the physical contact is still important. Seeing someone physical is still important. Seeing someone in flesh and blood makes that difference, because it's a confirmation then that this person actually exists.
Right.
So that's one. The other one is that, one of the main one is there's cultural difference. Word choices for us as Jamaicans, we take it for granted. It means something else for another team. Right? Our way of being and way of thinking is also different. So you now have to pull back on your culture. You can't pull back on who you're being.
Right.
Who you are is just who you are, and you have to just be that person right across the board, right? But you now have to pull back in terms of how it is that you normally do things, how it is that you normally approach. So how I approach someone probably in Jamaica, I now have to approach these persons in a different country, because their culture is different. Their interpretation is different. How they receive information is a little bit different. And while in Jamaica, as I said, because they're seeing you and they're seeing, you're happy, they go lucky, they're seeing in your office, they're seeing that, oh, she's not a bad person or anything like that, versus I am now communicating with persons via just sending like a text or messages or having a video call, when sometimes basically when you're reprimanding them or bringing into, so it's that can be difficult as well. So that is taking a while in terms of the used to and the trust aspect of it, and really for them to buy into what it is that you're really steering them and working them toward. I don't it's only time, I think, will help with those overcoming that aspect of it, because you will just continue to grow and you're going to continue to, but we're going to falter. Just today I had a coaching session and there was just lessons learned from it. And it's just you know how it is that we can make it better going forward. You know, so at the end of the day, it's going to happen. It's just not to allow when these hindrance or when these sleeping policemen come in the way. It slow you down, but it's not to stop you, right? So you just know that you get over it and move on and take the lessons from it, and just apply it. I based on the last leadership feedback, it's still not at a bad place. So what happened is that the company does take feedback in terms of how you are as a leader. And there's certain, it's like a survey. And I was pretty surprised in terms of I wasn't expecting that kind of score, but still room for improvement, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. But as I said, yeah. So
how do you get a promotion in a pandemic? Because a lot of persons talk about, oh, my company has scaled back, people have been losing their jobs. How do you position yourself in such a way that even in the midst of a pandemic, a promotion happens?
Wow. The thing about this role is that it has been something that was on the table, I would say probably 2019, so before the pandemic. It just happened to be executed during the pandemic. I don't work for an ordinary company. And it's a very dynamic company. And it's a company that really push you to grow and really have you think outside the box. Oh, the company, it's a company that before there's any scale back for people, they are going to be looking into what else can we do to cut on operations or cut expenses elsewhere before they come to people. That's how much people matters to this company. It's the heart of who they are. It's the heart of who we are as a company. And because of that, you will find that as team members, you're willing to rally around a lot of things. You're willing to go hard around a lot of things, because at the end of the day, you see me and you see me for me, and you're looking out for me, because we connect with feelings and emotions,
right,
as just humans. And when we find that something is in it for us, and that you see me and you have my best interest, I'm now going to come and have your back. So that's basically what happened. So, but it just happened to be executed in the pandemic for this promotion, but it's something that was on the table even before. The company just happened to say we're still going ahead with it during the pandemic. Yeah.
All right. So somebody might be watching this and saying to themselves, wow, maybe I'm not in the right business. Maybe I'm not in the right company. What kind of advice would you give to persons? Because maybe sometimes they don't feel as if there's any room for growth where they're at, and they may feel stuck. What advice would you give to them? Would you say leave and find where growth is? What would you tell them?
So the grass is not always green on the other side. It's just the angle and the perspective. I always believe that, right? Wow. So I have two folds to that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would want person to examine, I believe always, is that, are you in your passion? Are you in something that is driving you, that even though you might not like every aspect of the job,
Right.
but in terms of say 50 to 60% of the job, is
Mm-hmm.
it an aspect of the job that you feel fulfillment? So like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, with me, I don't necessarily, so there's some aspect of my job in terms of like say the operation, the day-to-day, that it's not necessarily my passion anymore, but my passion is really to sit with person, and I want to develop person, and I want to create certain structure. But once I create the structure, the day-to-day, I want to just hand off to someone else for them to take control. I want to go into that place where I'm
Right.
setting
Right.
that pace and laying the track, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that aspect of my job I enjoy. And coaching actually is supposed to take up to 80% of my job. So that aspect of it I come alive with. That's when
Mm-hmm.
I come and you're seeing me in terms of my best, because I'm sitting down with you and we're getting down to the nitty gritty, not just about your job, but about you as a person. I have that opportunity for that. So because of that, I'm able to go a little bit deeper to find underlying aspect of it. So I'm excited about that as a person, because I believe that there's strength and there's the best. We all have that best that need to come out, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
first question I would ask is, in terms of the role that you're in, is it that, some of us when we come, we're not sure what we want to do when we just finish school and we take
Mm-hmm.
the first job.
First off,
And
right.
if we take that in terms of a first job, you now need to do some self-assessment to say, did I give myself a timeline to be in this job by a particular time, because I need to do some self-discovery? So
Mm-hmm.
are you in your purpose? Are you into something that you're really passionate about? If the answer is no, you need to do some self-searching to say, okay, what am I truly passionate about?
Right.
And once you discover like the passion or your purpose, because I could go to purpose, but let's stick to passion.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that, okay, say for example, you're passionate about helping people.
Mm-hmm.
In the role that I'm in right now, am I fulfilling that passion in terms of helping people? So helping people person might be looking for it on a huge scale,
Right.
but it could be that you're helping person in terms of answering the phone, speaking to
Mm-hmm.
clients. That is still living through your passion, right? So you need to know, look at it on a wide scale to see what is the, not just looking at it in terms of the technical aspect to do a checklist, but truly the underlying factor in terms of your passion. And then after you have discovered that and looking into the role and connecting to see if that job connects with your passion, then sorry, there are companies that you can have that conversation with your manager. There
Mm-hmm.
are companies that allow you to be creative. Again, it's just a matter of the approach. There are companies that they're going to tell you no. Then that's where you now have to put again certain things in place to actually, you do your self-discovery, you realize it's not aligning, you realize there's a disconnect. Okay, now I need to have a plan. What is going to be the plan? And the plan should have your goals, your timeline. The goals should be broken down into, smaller goals, tidbits, because you're supposed to be working on this, either on a daily basis or a weekly basis to get to, right? Um, what's the backup plan? For some persons, you don't necessarily need to be working at a high-end organization, a name brand organization. It don't necessarily need to
Right.
be 9 to 5. So another thing that you can also look at is how it is know, I know my passion. How can you benefit, or how can you make money from my passion? you know. Even Miles Monroe speak about that. You know, he preach a lot about that in terms of most of the time in terms of how we want to be millionaires or being millionaires. It's just things that we do naturally and we don't even realize because it is so natural and a part of us that we don't even realize that we're doing it. So it's really just doing some deep self-searching, and some of us actually get fearful and get stuck when we need to make that next step.
Right.
And if you're a Christian, you know, you seek God about it and you pray about it to get your go ahead and your release. And if you're not a Christian, still don't be unstoppable. God still hear your prayer, still seek God about it. But document in all cases, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, you document and still make a plan. The Bible says, write the vision and make it clear.
And that brings me to my next question of, you know, yes, you said, what is your purpose? What is your passion? And what I, really was inspired by you as an individual was when you had, when I had the opportunity of being in a leadership class that you taught. And I believe that was so much mentorship and so much depth, right? And then you have evolved into, owning your own business, coaching, which I would say is probably a passion because you talk a lot about coaching. So tell me a little bit about your business that you have started, and kind of tell us how we can reach out to you. What is it that you do, so that we can be able to support you in that way.
Okay. So basically, as you touched on it, I love coaching. I realized that I love helping people. But it's not just helping persons to say here, but I also like to question you and give you also share that tool. I realize also that I love research. So because of that, to tie it in a little bit further is that I love the idea of when I don't know something in terms of when I have a client or I have a team member where I'm clueless about, we're learning together and we're researching it together to, get the competencies or get what it is that is required to achieve certain things. Love mentorship. I believe that mentorship is key and important to always get you to the next level or to get you where you need to go. So out of that in 2020, I was having a conversation with the Lord, and when God have a sense of humor, and sometimes the answer, you go, Lord God, take time with me now. So I remember I was praying and the Lord was just speaking to me and said, I there, and I was like, no, God, I need to do something else. There's just so much in me that I want to pour out and give in. And he's like, okay, unlock. And I was like, unlock? And he's like, unlock. Okay. What that mean? Like, God, what seriously that mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're slow because we like when God just put it straight out there, right? We like him to just lay the red carpet and have the arrows on the sign and say, hey, that way, that's it. But don't always come like that. It's true. So it came about and it came from God, and everything at that point in time was just falling into place. I had started my master's program, but due to COVID, it was paused. And at that point in time, I needed to just do something to occupy myself. So I started having some sessions with persons like after work or during my free time. And I was coaching. And I realized I was actually making appointments to actually coach persons.
Right.
And just talking through the whole pandemic, the pandemic was new to us, and sharing certain the messages that God laid on my heart at that time, which is just the Joseph method, I call it, which is basically during your time of height, you sow and you ensure that you share with persons, and ensure that the excess that you put away for famine. And basically how God have his people. And when you lack, they went into Egypt, yes, they went in with some things, but they left with plenty,
Right.
So at that point in time, that was the message that the Lord was downloading, still seeking God about it, until I realized that I had a clientele of about 5 persons, all just doing free. And I'm trying to remember, things were just popping up at that point in time in terms of coaching seminars. And I decided to go into a coaching seminar. And at that point in time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just go and do the certification. So I did the certification. And while doing the certification, here comes the word again, unlock. And the Lord said, I have the key. And that's where Unlock You came about. So that's the name of the company. So Unlock You is not just about, coaching or just coaching in terms of your purpose around life. It's also have a mentorship aspect of it, and it also has the charity aspect of it. So charity is something that I'm very passionate about as well, in terms of giving back. I believe that we should always try, no matter what, in terms of giving to the less fortunate.
Right.
Because my grandma used to say, today for me, tomorrow for you. And you can just be going through a situation for just a particular season, and in whatever way that you can. So at that point in time, a former classmate of mine, she had a fire. And it's just how I felt about it. And when calling persons overseas, and I was telling them about it, and I was telling my team members around it, and in terms of just what we brought together to try to assist her, and the difference that it made, and how appreciative she was. I mean, that was just one aspect of it. And there's other things as well. I don't really like to talk about it, but yeah, but I do like that aspect of it. I just don't like when left hand and right hand know what we're doing. So yeah. So there's also the charity aspect. There's also mentorship. So the mentorship came about with one of my friend from primary school doing her business. And then I had another friend who basically, she was an entrepreneur as well. And I thought, hey, they needed to link up to share, stories. And because this person is now develop a little bit more in her business, how it is that I can have that person link up to show her that, hey, it can happen, and take her on to say, all right, I'm going to guide you in terms of what to do. So that's how the mentorship aspect of it was birthed. And Unlock You currently, we normally have, so we had started some programs on Instagram Live with regards to 5 Daughters of the King as well, where we speak about different things in sisterhood. We had 3 episodes, I think, last year. And live this year, we had 3 episodes. It's just where basically I have a group of friends. They're really my sisters. And, in terms of difficult time, as much as I had the death of my father this year, very devastating. My father was old. I know he was ready to die, but the impact was greater than I anticipated. And it's just how they came together and rally around me, even when I didn't feel like I needed to be Nikki or wanted to be Nikki. And it's during that time as well that, you know, the Lord started to speak to me about, you know, you have this. How about those women who they don't have that? And what it is that they are going through at that point in time. So, you know, for some of them, they have children, or, you know, even as Christians at church, a lot of us are in church and we don't necessarily know our purpose, or we don't understand certain things in terms of our purpose partner. What does that look like? So it was just a lot of conversation in terms of what we sat down as friends that we will talk about, or things that will go through our mind. And we're all Christians. I mean, we all pray. We're at different stages in our life, but we had that sisterhood, or we have that sisterhood where we can talk to each other, talk it out, and pray. So not that prayer is not important, but to have a support system or a safe place to do that, to really express, you know, truly how you feel without being judgmental. So we had that going on. That was really, really good. So we're looking to start that back in 2022. That is through Nikki's Thoughts to Undaunted by Donnet. She's in Canada. She has a, you know, true testimony. These are women who have great testimonies in terms of, you know, different levels, or what God has brought them through. And I'm so grateful that they're in my life, that they feel safe enough, or God has allowed them to be able to share authentically in terms of what they have experienced and what God has really and truly brought them through, you know. Not just to just come in and say, glory be to God, this is what God brought me to, but really telling the story to say, listen, I've had conversation with God, or I've had thought process of XYZ. I mean, really being real and really being open, that it's really relatable. So we didn't want another program that, oh, it just come holy foley and that's it. Is, hey, this is a Christian walk. We fall, we have thoughts, these things come in our mind. We have challenges. But we have that sisterhood, and God has blessed us with that. So we wanted to expand that further. So look out for that as well. Unlock You is available on Instagram.
Okay.
So we'll be posted a little bit more.
Okay.
We'll
What
be
if
posted
person
more.
wanted to reach out to you otherwise, in terms of just getting consultation, you know, mentorship? Is it that they can directly go to Instagram, look for Unlock You, message you, and get in contact with you for that kind of mentorship or consultation, or whatever the case may be?
Right. So it's Unlock Empower, but it's Unlock You is the name of the company.
Okay.
So you can start off with Instagram, and you can reach out to me there. Definitely will go on the page from time to time. I do go on the page. I do post. I was a consistent poster, and it's coaching and mentorship with a difference. It's not just to come, oh, we sit down and we mentor. You know, I have a list of persons that we already have in terms of their profile, and that's how we actually match. So we're not just matching to just say, okay, you need to be with a pastor because you need deliverance. No, you know. So it's,
You're assessing every individual situation to find the best fit.
always the best fit, always the best fit, right? And it's just that also that for us, for Unlock You as well, is that our journey is not going to look like everyone's journey, and it might look different to me, and I may not be familiar with it, but it's to know that you have someone who is cheering you along and encouraging you. Because ultimately the most important thing is not the road that you take to get there, but getting there.
Right. What I got from, your just discourse in terms of unlock you was I like the fact that you had spoken about your friends who have been the support system for you. And what I find a lot of times is that persons, and I say we because I've experienced it, where you are evolving into this better person. People see you and they feel like, oh, she all right, there's nothing going on there, and you may be going through so much, struggling, don't have that outlet. I remember I was sharing it the other day that in a research that was done by NCU, they found that persons were trying to cope in the pandemic by doing drug abuse. And what I find is that a lot of times we take the world on our shoulder, we don't have that outlet. And what you find is that persons are, yes, advancing, yes, doing and becoming the best version of themselves on the outside, but on the inside, yes, on the inside, there's so much damage, there's so much strain, there is so much struggle and things that have not been dealt with. I want to find out from you how important it is for someone to be able to develop the inside, the things that hurt at the very core. How important is that for a person to be dealing with that? Because when we say better version of you, we're not talking just about house care and land and promotion, but the total man. And sometimes we neglect the emotional sides of us, because you went through a very tough time, right? And I can imagine there's so many other persons that are going through things, but
Right.
we oftentimes neglect that inner man.
Yeah.
So how important is it to deal with that?
It is extremely important. The truth is, if it is not dealt with, it's going to show up somewhere else in another way. Some way or form, it's going to show up. How important it is. Well, I know for me, it started off when actually I can share my process in terms of when my dad died. I just felt like, okay, put on your big girl's panty. I can say that, right? And let's get this thing done. Let's just move this thing along. And it's like one of the thing is, as Christians, is I think the expectation is that you do not mourn because you know what God is, because you serve a bigger God.
Right.
Knows everything and you just need to trust God, right? And I did trust God and I do trust God. But in trusting God, so in my growth, I've learned that there's just different level of trust, right? So in that process, I was at one level of trust, and going through my process, I went to another level of trust, but it was still growth, if you understand what I mean, right? So what I find, or what I found at that point in time, when I was just being robotic and just actually going through and not necessarily coming to full realization that my father is no longer here physically, I was in denial, right? And I would say that I'm still in some kind of denial because I am yet to go back to the house since the whole like 9 nights and everything like that. Because the reality is, if I go there, I'm expecting to see him at his desk because that's where he normally is, or in his room. and I'm going to be faced with that kind of reality, right? So in terms of just acting like, okay, I just need to continue to go to work. I mean, when my dad died, I remember my team leader at the time telling me, hey, you need to take some time off, go to the morning. I was like, no, I'm coming to work. And I was at work. I mean, the following day after daddy died, I was at work and I was working, but I was not really present. And I was just not me. And I think I knew my team knew I was not me, but everyone knew that I just lost my dad. So at that point in time is, okay, let's just give her space. But it was coming out in another way. So I found myself started to think other things, I found myself, I started to not sleep. And because I'm not sleeping, I was not focusing again. I was just not me. I was like a empty me. It was just a shell. You could see me like I'm here, but I was not there. Glory be to God, I was not making any errors. Thank God, finances and errors,
yeah, don't worry.
So I thank God that there weren't any errors. But I would snap. I would space out. I lost interest basically even in Unlock You for a new company that was picking up pace. That was definitely not good.
Right.
Lost interest there. What I found myself being passionate about, I was just not putting out the effort any at all. Because I wasn't sleeping, I realized that I started to also, have a little glass of wine, just to fall asleep. And thank God again, wasn't addicted to say, okay, I started to drink. But I prevented myself from that because in 2008, when I lost my aunt, when I thought God was going to heal my aunt, that's what I went back to. So I knew I didn't want to go back there. So in 2008, when I thought my aunt, in terms of when my aunt died, and I thought God was going to heal her, and I could not understand why God didn't heal her. She had cancer, and she was my favorite aunt. She was like my mom, confiding in her with everything. I remember when I got pregnant, she was the first person I told. I didn't even tell my birth mom, right? And so when I heard that she had cancer, and she was the person who had led me back to Christ, and when I found out that she had cancer, I was like, God is going to heal her. The God that I serve, my auntie. So when she died, I basically went back to drinking and smoking, not facing the reality of that hurt, not going through the process of mourning or dealing with me emotionally. I am now at a good place where I can speak about her and speak about what I've gone through. But before, no, I would not. And this is why I said it's extremely important, because that also affected my relationship with people around me and my relationship with God.
And then because your job is really relationship centered, that just not going to tie in well any at all.
Right. So even with as much as this year, when daddy died, I was just not as interactive with my team. So I talk to them, and and when I'm speaking with them, it's just about work. And I'm just not that type of person. I would consider I'm not necessarily the social butterfly, but as I said, I love people, and I always want to check in to make sure everyone is okay. And I was just in my zone. I was just in my shell. And that makes you unhappy. So what happened is that as I said, other things started to manifest because I can't get to be me. and I wasn't dealing with what was happening internally. I'm sorry, what was happening in terms of my mind.
Right.
I wasn't dealing with I wasn't expressing. So it's not that I wasn't dealing with it, but I didn't take the time out to truly express what I was feeling, what hurt it is. I did not want to be vulnerable because I am supposed to be strong. So being vulnerable is just not a part of the equation. This girl out here is supposed to be a strong person.
Right.
And when that is not showing up, and I realized that, okay, you're not as strong as you thought you were. Like, come on, Nikki, you're daddy's girl. Him say you have strength, you can do this. How can you? He told you, he's like, prepare, like, Nix, I'm ready to go. Like, what do you mean? Like, come on, Chica, get yourself up. But I wasn't, it's not that I couldn't, because my brothers were open to go through that, and they had a safe space for us to express that. But it's just that, who am I to want to be hurt over someone who was 80 versus someone who had lost their dad probably at 40 or 50? Who am I? I got those years with him, like, be grateful, like, but yeah. So
But it doesn't hurt any less. Now, saying it doesn't hurt any less. And so many times people are going through so many different things, and we oftentimes tell ourselves, say, hi.
Yeah.
What all of this for? Like, pick it up. You gotta be stronger than this.
Yeah, and then also you also have the pressure of, because of the role that you're in. So say, for example, say you're a pastor at a church. You know, as a pastor, it's like the expectation is that you should not be going through this. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that's that's also part of the pressure from us as a Christian, that sometimes we forget that we're human and that we go through these feelings, right? So it's for me, it is extremely important to deal with the inner man, because what is on the inside is actually going to come out. You might try to manage it.
What is watching, and they're saying, I want to become a better version of myself. I'm struggling. I'm going through the pain of maybe loss or hurt or whatever the case might be. They're probably, yes, making it professionally. What advice would you give to them to deal with that inner you? Because, sometimes we may be at a loss and don't really know where to start from to deal with this.
So the first thing is that if you have recognized it, first thing I would say is congratulations, because the first road, or the first step to the road of healing, is to actually acknowledge it. So once we can acknowledge it, that's a good start. You acknowledge it and you recognize that, hey, I can't do this on my own. I need help. Help is there. In Jamaica, and it's also free, especially during this time. I was watching a program recently, and I saw a list of places where actually you can call in and make an appointment for free counseling in Jamaica. So I think during the COVID pandemic, our government has, or other institution has recognized that this mental health aspect of it, or the inner hurt that's happening with us, has gone up significantly. So as such, persons are actually even offering their services for free, and persons, there are other institutions that's just there, that's just putting it out there. So I will say, definitely go out and seek. It is there. Jamaica has the resources to assist, right? Ensure that whoever it is that you choose to confide in and to help you along the way, that you're comfortable with the person. if you're not comfortable, you're not going to get the healing and the results that you need. You need to
Right.
ensure that you're comfortable with the person, because you need to be honest and authentic with the person. So if you feel popped down today, you need to ensure that you're saying to the person, I am popped down. I had a relapse, and
Yes.
this is what's happening, and this is what's going to in my head. Don't pretty it up. Be real about it, because that's how you're going to get the true healing. You know, sometimes, as I said, because of our titles, or because of who we're connected to, or who person see us being on the outside, we tend to still pretty up our healing,
Right.
our hurt, sorry. We still pretty up our grief, or depression. Don't pretty it up. Just speak it, and just say it as oh it is, right? To get the full healing and the full experience, and so you can be fully complete, you know.
Awesome. Nickesha, I really appreciate our talk today, right? Just learning from you in terms of, your position as a corporate manager, your business, and despite everything that has been happening in the pandemic in your personal life, that you are still pushing, growing, becoming, and really just trying to position yourself to, advance and do a good job at it. And I just want to commend you, right, for really just, sharing with us that, personal part of your life to really encourage someone. Because I believe that today, or, in our session, that, you would have really encouraged someone to keep going, right? And so, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know if there's anything, Nickesha, any last words that you want to say, any encouragement that you want to give someone that is seeking to strive to become a better person, striving as a professional in whatever area that they're in, if there's anything that you want to express.
All right, so thanks again for having me. I truly appreciate it. And so for persons out there, the time is now. There's a lot of things that we say we can't do, when you don't know if you can't do it until you try. You just make that bold step. Some persons may say it's easier said than done, but just trust that you try. One of the things is that there's one thing that we're guaranteed, well, two things. Change is always constant. And also, even whether you're doing, so for example, you want to go and get that degree, but you believe that you're 50 years old. So why is it that you're going to go and get the degree? Either way, to do the degree, the time is going to pass. So if it takes 4 years to do the degree, 4 years is going to happen. At the end of the 4 years, what it is that you want to achieve. And at the end of the 4 years, when you look back, what it is that you want to say, I have achieved in the 4 years. So 15 years is going to pass, whether or not you go ahead and do your business and do your business. But at the end of the day, what it is that you want to look back at and say, I have done this. So time is going to still happen. Time is still going to pass. So at the end of the day, I would encourage persons to, just be focused and be courageous and be bold to yes, we need to have our strategy. Yes, we need to have the goals, but to at least try. Document as well, write it down, break it down into smaller goals. But at the end of the day, guys, change is going to happen. And at the end of the day, you can do it. You know your strength. Let your strength work for you.
All right, so thank you so much, guys. You heard it from Nickesha Powe. Ensure that whatever you are doing, it matters. You know, life is gonna pass. Whether at the end of 15 years, you would have been able to say that you have accomplished this or not accomplished anything. It's really up to you. So until next time, this is your DIY professional saying that you can do it because it's time to become the best version of you. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.